You're out of order. We got sergeant at arms.
We got a colonel at ours somewhere. I don't know.
Was there a problem with that?
You'll see you out of order.
Sergeant at arms, remove this man.
He said worse when I first said it to
He
him.
did. All right, welcome everybody. A new year. It's been 20 days since we've been together. It's great to see everyone, and hope all had a great Christmas and New Year's. And I wore my purple today for TCU.
The funeral.
Kansas State. Anyway, it's a massacre. Is there a call to order the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Have a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. I see Barry Junkin.
You got Boswell today, good sir.
Where is he?
Right here.
Oh, Alan. Hey, buddy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. We've had a rash of sickness in our department, so we got people filling in kind of everywhere. So I'm filling in for Barry and Virgil and several other folks in my
I
office.
hope everyone
And
feels better
just for the
soon.
record, Mr. Pons is going to be my CNI dog tonight because we're hearing issues that I have.
Yes.
In case there are questions. But we do have one that's on unfinished business. This is demolition of structure at 2710 19th Street. I want to give you a little bit of background on this. This was condemned August 21st in 2020. The property had 41 housing code violations. The structure was last tabled on November the 8th for 60 days. I'm just here to remind the council this structure's been tabled 6 times for a total of 360 days. Currently, there's an active building permit for this property. It was issued on October 13th, 2020. The owner's been contacted and is aware about the hearing, and supposedly the owner will be here tonight. There have been 6 inspections on this property. It's not basically where we'd like for it to be at this point. We have had a plumbing rough. As you can see from the pictures of the outside, that he has made progress on the outside, which is important to us and the community. So, after talking to Mr. Junkins about this, Mr. Junkins would like to make a recommendation to table for 60 more days. I told Mr. Junkins, based on the pictures and the work that's been done on the outside, that it may not meet the Condemnation Act as being an unsafe structure. As you can see, the windows have been replaced and the new roof and a lot of things are done. There's still a lot of work to do. So basically there was 2 options to look at, and that was either table for 60 more days like Mr. Junkin wants, because he's been working with the owner, or to either vote no on the resolution and let us handle it through the inspection process. And then if we have issues from there, it would move to a property maintenance that would go through the court system. One of the reasons he wanted to keep it under the condemnation system was to make sure we follow through with this with the owner.
Mr. Boswell, isn't this in District 1? Isn't that Mr.
Whose district is it?
I'm sorry.
That's mine. That's what I
Is it
thought.
District 1?
I thought it was Mr. Yeah, the guy that did all the work.
Whose district is it? It's one,
This is
right?
in District 1.
Yeah, Mr. Seeley, I think we ought to, Mr. President, I would like to just continue it 60 days since we've been working with him. And then once Barry feels that we have made significant progress, then turn him loose after those 60 days.
I just have a question, procedural question.
Okay.
You said what he's done now, it doesn't seem unsafe. What if he doesn't do any more work?
That's why we're gonna keep it.
That
Well,
was
I mean,
one-
I'm wondering if we can do anything.
That was one of the reasons that Mr. Junkin kind of wants to keep it under the condemnation. As a building official, I have to look at the structure the way it is.
Right.
Is it still an unsafe structure?
Right.
So that decision to me would be left up to the council to decide whether they want to table or vote no on the resolution.
I mean, I'm for giving him 60 more days. Hey, my question is, what if he doesn't do it in 60 days?
Well,
In
Mr.
60
Fair,
days, it would return back for another hearing, and you would have the option to either vote it down or
right.
But you just said it didn't seem to be unsafe.
not with the amount of work that's been done on the outside.
So could we legally demolish it?
My recommendation as a building official at that point would be to vote no on the resolution, and it would go back through the process of working through the building inspection
Okay.
department.
Okay, I just,
So it goes through the building inspector, he takes it off of us.
They make the
So
decision.
they make,
Let's keep it at the
whatever
60
you wanna
days.
do. So what do you wanna do?
yeah,
I
I
wanna
don't have a
keep it at
problem
the
with that, I just wanna know what we're gonna
You
do.
wanna keep it 60 days?
Yeah, let's keep it at the recommendation at the 60 days.
He wants to keep it a recommendation of 60 days.
All right,
I'm gonna make a note of that.
thank you.
Okay, the next structure is under, public hearings. This is 1702 T.Y. Rogers. This was condemned on September the 23rd, 2022. The property has 34 housing code violations. The owner has been contacted and is aware of the hearing. All the pictures, reports, paperwork, everything's on file within the building inspection division. At this point, I need to make you aware that the owner will probably not be here because they have no interest in rehabbing the structure or the financial means. There is an interested third party that that we was found when we were doing the title searching thing that has a tax lien on it. But according to that, they don't really have no rights to the property because they're not on the deed or what. But they may show up or may not. They won't give us a definitive answer on that. Staff's recommendation on this structure, because there's nothing being done on this, it's improperly bordered, it's an eyesore, and it is in bad shape, is to recommend voting yes on the resolution. And this is in District 1.
Alan, has this been before the council before?
No,
Okay.
this is the first time here.
So my question is, that picture was taken 6 months ago. Why did it take so long to get up to
I
here?
guess we got a lot, we're working through property maintenance, we'll be doing abatement, just different things working on.
Anything we can
Sometimes-
do, anything we can do to help?
Things that we can do to help make that process faster.
More people, more, I mean.
Well, I mean, more people does help. Right now, I'm working with half of the department because of sickness right now.
Okay.
Is the owner coming tonight?
No.
No, they're not coming.
The owner has no interest in coming to the hearing. We may have a third party
Yes, sir.
person that has an interest in that property that may show up. This person wouldn't give us a definitive answer whether they're gonna be here or not.
that's going, that would cost more to, it'd be cheaper to tear that down and rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like
You're gonna
it.
tear it down anyway.
Any more questions?
More questions for Mr. Boswell?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Zach? I didn't see the, Caitlin here, Emily, so, it's you today.
It is me today, yes, sir. So we have, first up, these are 2 public hearing meetings tonight for you guys. Z2322, so this is a petition to rezone approximately 17 acres. This is by Technology Drive, so just south of, I believe that's exit 79. Right there, you can see Technology Drive ends in a cul-de-sac adjacent to this property. It is part of that. It's zone MG today. Vacant piece of property. They're asking to rezone to R1. It does not conform to framework, so you can see here that framework identifies this as Flex Employment Center, which includes low-impact industrial uses as well as flexible office or industrial space. But again, they are requesting to zone to R1 for residential development. And it was unanimously recommended for denial at Planning Commission.
Zach, this has just been, well, that's a good question, but that property's just been sitting there for years and years and years.
Yes,
We need homes, we need houses.
and so
In R1, the most restrictive zoning you have, why wouldn't we want the most restrictive?
It is, yeah, so the minimum lot size would be 12,000 square feet. Initially, they did go forward with a planned unit development to have more density in this location. There is some wetlands here, however, that was denied as well. And so it died at planning commission because the subdivision died as well.
Why did they do that?
Why were they so opposed to it?
So, Ms. Howard, if you want to
Come on, Ms. Howard.
Come on, come on.
Defend yourself.
Just in the past week, I've been defending myself on this one, like the past 2 weeks. So, I do understand that with the developer, they have went as far as they could as far as trying to develop this with industrial, and now this is what it seems like it's gonna be the most viable option. But, you know, the first time that I saw it, in the issues that the topography has created, it just seemed that this would not be the best for that area. But this is in Councilman Tyner's district.
Well, as I told Ashley, my thoughts, I'm gonna support it, for a couple of reasons. One, it does grow the city, and as far as it, and I think what happened was there was some back and forth between some planning commission members and workforce development.
And the definition, the true definition of what
Yeah,
workforce
correct.
development is, and is this truly workforce development?
And I think it got to something that created the no votes, I felt like, going back in.
Yeah, just to go off of that, if I could. So they had mentioned that the starting price would be $290,000 for the homes that they were proposing to build on this. And again, the PUD was denied, so you're just rezoning it to R1. There's no PUD attached to it or anything like that. So that would go back to the drawing board at Planning Commission. However, workforce housing is identified as $175,000 to $240,000. So I think that was one of the discussions at Planning Commission, as well as they had mentioned going from industrial to residential is something that they hadn't seen. It's primarily residential to industrial, but again.
Where would we have
And it's so
workforce
far.
housing in
I
Tuscaloosa
didn't
at
think it was in
those
the county.
numbers?
And we've been hearing that pretty regularly, that it's hard to build workforce housing at this time.
Is economic viability a condition upon which the planning commission will base a recommendation?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Really, whether the project is economically viable?
They choose to take, and I'll bounce in and help Mr. Collins out a little bit. The health, safety, public welfare, the economic viability is something along those lines. When you look at a housing development, I'm so sorry. When you look at a housing development, a lot of times you want to make sure that you've got the resources available. You've got places where folks can go get groceries, they can get a gallon of milk if they need to. They can go pick up a prescription or something like that. And so the Planning Commission does have that ability to weigh all options in a decision that they made. And
As well as looking at, past developments that the person going forward with this development has done, and whether or not they've been able to finish those, things like that is taken into account as well.
I have a question about workforce development, because that was a big issue with our conversation piece with this particular item. So is this truly considered workforce development?
Per the definition of workforce housing, if they were built at $290,000 starting price, it would not meet that for the city of Tuscaloosa.
I think it is important to take a look at the date of this meeting too, though, because I know I can feel the tension on this one, and it's kind of fun and spicy for a Tuesday.
It's good for ratings.
It is. It's good for our viewers. But when you look at October of 22,
Better than last night's game.
that is true.
Yeah.
A little bit more action.
It's not saying.
When you look at October of 22, we were still, I think, as a community, as a Chamber of Commerce, as all the entities that have been involved in these discussions about workforce and affordable housing, we were still having these very real $175,000 to $240,000 discussions. And the term was getting abused. I'll just tell you, it was getting abused. Workforce housing, and I think that may have been part of the challenge that this development had initially. Where we have reached as a community, though, I believe, is just a very simple fact that we need housing. As long as you have housing, you're going to have that natural turnover potentially. And so where in October of 22, we had not quite changed our own narratives. I think you've got to take that into account because that's something that you're hinting at as we sit here today. We just need housing.
Can I ask you something,
Yes,
Ashley?
ma'am.
So, and this is my last question. So when we talk about the missing middle, does this price range fit
No, ma'am.
into that? Okay.
I was told today
Like 200.
that there are 8 houses in Tuscaloosa for sale in the 240 to 250 range.
Probably.
8.
The inventory is pretty low.
Zach,
It's so far away.
will you show us again where this is?
Yes.
Because it's off Old 11, isn't it?
There you go.
Exit 79's up there above.
So, yeah, exit 79.
Is that? Yeah.
So University is going to the north, and then I think that's Highway 11.
The city sewer.
So it's right,
Right off I-20.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, is that University Boulevard 11, right? Like that exit? Just on the other side.
The city sewer. And
The city, would they
Yes.
connect through the city
Yeah, I was
sewer, through
looking
the
at that.
industrial park?
And that's one reason that they were, I believe, and again, we do
And they would
have,
have to annex in to get the
Correct.
city sewer.
well, they are in it, they are in the city.
With tonight.
No, they're
No,
already.
they're already
Yeah,
in
they're
the
already in the city. This is just a rezoning for
So
residential.
that property's already, I guess it would be.
I know, I was shocked at first.
It's
Is
way
that-
out there.
Is that technology park in this? or
It
that-
is,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
that's
So
it. That's it.
the bottom right there on your screen, everything white is out of the city. And then that red is zone MG, and then BH is just north of that. But as you shift kind of northeast, that gets more into the city limits. As you shift southeast, that gets you out of city limits more so.
It might fill up with Mercedes.
Yeah.
So, and if there's any questions for the actual petitioners, they are here. If you wanted any more clarification.
Okay, any other questions? You know, and one other thing I'll say is that we can't control, I know and I realize the shopping and that type of thing, but, you know, we're not forcing anybody to buy a house there. So
And the
when-
shopping may move
and
to it.
when they buy it, they know what they're getting.
You know, if they got a neighborhood, they'll probably get
All right, you get, what you got?
Yep.
That's that.
All right, so next we have a rezoning, a little bit simpler than that one. Z3022, so Ms. Thompson, she owns a house on this property at 2115 Foster's Ferry Road. It's currently zoned BN, she wants to rezone to R4. This is the house today.
Yeah.
Um, Zone
Yeah.
commercial, she's lived in it for a while now. I believe Mr. Wilson has talked with her.
Yeah, I have. I've spoken with her, and
I know Barbara.
she's a very great lady. And that little piece of property that she needs to get done right, I support that. I would ask that everyone else would support that as well.
It's being rezoned to what?
And
Just
yeah, she just wants to continue to use it as a house, so she needs to have it zoned appropriately.
yeah, that's a house.
And it does conform to framework. And then we had, and recommended for approval by planning commission in November.
You know what was amazing to me though is how was it that little section BGO? I mean,
Or a BN, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
BN.
sure when or
Years
how
back.
it occurred as
I
BN.
was born.
Okay.
There had to be a story.
It was originally zoned BN,
It was a car store there.
It had to be a store or something there
So-
back in the day.
but it is surrounded by single family homes.
You know, the penny store used to have in the community. You know, the penny store.
Chip, ask him if he ever goes through his district.
Hey, we had one in my neighborhood. I sent it around.
All right, and then real quick, 2 introductions. So Mr. Edwards is petitioning to rezone this property here from BGO to RMF1. You can see RMF1 is directly adjacent to it. It was previously RMF1. They requested the same owner requested to rezone to BGO in order to use that existing house as an office there. I believe that never actually happened. They didn't use it as an office, and so just for a better use of the property in the future, they want to revert back to our RMF one.
Can you go back
Yes, sir.
2 slides? Let me see the visual.
This one here.
One more.
Yeah. I'm,
So this is off Hargrove Road.
Okay.
So
It's
Idlewood
in my
would be
district.
towards south.
I'm just trying to,
So yeah,
Place it.
sorry. Here's the.
I mean, I know the neighborhood right there. It's not far from the mayor's parents.
Yeah.
Just north of Bowers Park, right by that curve. Heading north.
And they had it zoned what, Zach?
It was zoned RMF one previously, and then the same people requested to rezone to BGO.
Can you back up and show that picture from the road?
7 years ago.
This
There you
one.
go.
Like this maps.
Where is that exactly, John?
Is it down,
I'm trying to think.
It's gonna be is it
No,
close to
no.
VA?
Hickory Lane is just right there.
Not past that.
I'm,
You would know, it's your Yorkshire apartments.
yeah, that's
what I
it,
said.
that's
It's
it.
going towards
Is
VA.
that what that is right there?
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
was gonna
yeah,
ask.
yeah,
Right
yeah.
back on that
Which is
road.
that same
Yeah.
that same property owner who
That's
owns
not-
those apartments as well, the Edwards family.
Mhm.
But again, this is just an introduction, so we can hash this one out in the future. It was unanimously recommended for approval.
We'll hash it out.
I may have some
Right along.
I may have some old beer cans buried on my property.
And then we have one more
Good old gang.
introduction for you guys. So this again is a rezoning from R1 to BN. This is by Lake Tamaha, so over by what used to be the Retreat. I actually lived there when I was in college. And you can see that it's R1. Some of it is R1 currently. It's all vacant land. They just want to make it all BN in that area for possible commercial development in the future. Unanimously recommended for approval at Planning Commission. And that's all I've got, so.
Any questions for Zach? Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Mayor Maddox.
Nothing today, I know we're short of time, but we will be requesting executive session.
Okay, doke.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Brandy.
All right, so I have one thing to go over with you guys today. If you kind of think back a couple months ago, TTS was here. They made some updates to their bylaws, and they wanted to hold off on this one particular portion, which was making para serve more as an ex officio role. So with that, Mr. Minor has retired from para, and they wanted to take that his seat on the board. He's still on the board, but they wanted to fill his unexpired term with someone else. So I wanted to come to you guys to see if you had any ideas, if maybe you guys wanted to hold off on it for a little bit, or if you wanted to advertise, or.
I'm gonna nominate Steve Edmonds. His family's in the motel, hotel business and restaurant around the state, lives in Norman's district, and sharp business ed, a lot of experience.
And
I'll get a CV
okay.
or resume, get a job.
So, yeah, I talked to Mr. Busby about him last night. If this is a council appointment, so if anybody else has anybody they'd like to talk or have up nominate, bring that by next week and get that to Brandy, if you will. Okay. And I will say this: there's going to be a lot of openings coming up. Gary, the director of para, will be ex officio. We've got one that will be, that expires, not a year from now, but they for other reasons, personal reasons, they want to come off the board soon. That's not to be disclosed to the public yet, but there'll be another opening soon. And then in September, we'll have 5 openings. 2 will be council appointments, 2 will be TTS appointments, and 1 will be a mayor appointee.
And that's for pair?
That's for Tuscaloosa Tourism.
Oh, for tourism.
Brand new board.
So go
And I say in September, there will be 5, plus another, there's gonna be 6 openings coming between now and September. 3 of those will be city council appointees. 1 will be Mayor Maddox's appointment, and 2 will be the TTS board. So,
I sit on the board as Finance Committee Chair.
Yes.
This number of seats coming up into the early fall is highly unusual, and it is an opportunity. So I've talked with Kelsey at length and asked her to get to us. What I'd like to see is the strategic vision for what we want that board to look like upon completion, so that the individual nominees being fill in the totality of that picture.
Well, this for
Tourism is right.
Justice tourism. And I like the move to, and I as well, I met with Kelsey quite a bit the last few days, Lee, and I like the ex officio move that the board has made. So Para will be ex officio, the EDA director will be, I think, ex officio. So they'll all have a seat at the table, they won't have a vote. I think that's kind of good. I think I like it myself. But again, think about anybody you'd like for next week, and then know that we have 3 council appointments coming up between now and August.
And let me say this, as we prepare to look at these boards, I'm in a conference this week, and I was just up in Birmingham, and I talked about Tuscaloosa tourism and sports, and I said to the people from our national work, I said, we wish that you all could have came to Tuscaloosa. And because of the service that we got in this different city. I want to make sure that I put a plug in and say, I want these boards to be as diverse as they can, so that we can encapsulate everybody and everybody's needs.
And I'll follow that with, I think this board is extreme.
No, I'm talking about incoming.
Yes, because that's the one thing I talked to Kelsey about. I wanted to know exactly, I wanted to see the board list and the makeup.
Yeah, I'd
and
like to see the board list.
I'll give that to you. I was very pleased.
Is Dennis,
Yes.
Dennis on it? Yeah, that's
Dennis was on
Dennis on there.
Tony on there.
Samara,
Tony on there?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
and Leslie Brewington, and there's one other African
Oh,
American.
yeah, that's the board we just worked on a couple of years.
Yeah, so they've got it going on.
Yeah, so,
They realize the importance.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you, so we'll get those, if y'all have anyone between now and Tuesday that you'd like to add to the list of Mr. Edmonds, please do so.
Yes. That's what
Okay.
I
That all, Brandy, thank you. Mr. Holmes.
Good afternoon, council.
Good afternoon.
Before I get started on briefing y'all on the agenda, I would like to introduce Erin Harden. Erin Harden is a new attorney in our office.
I met her.
She will be taking over for Mr. Cheshire, who was our municipal court prosecutor. He'll be coming up into the office to support Tom and Mr. Hobbs and kind of work in our sort of general practice sort of course
So
area.
the new guy always has to go to municipal court, is that pretty much the way?
Not always, but this is how we have done it. It is a really good place to start, and Ms. Harden has about 5 years in at the DA's office before she went to the university and then here, so she can pick up where Hudson left off real easy. And this will be, I've been appointed for about 18 months now, and so we're finally fully staffed at OCA. There were 2 vacancies when I was appointed. And we're finally getting everything filled and kind of getting everything organized in a way that makes sense to me.
Well,
Welcome. Good to see you again.
All right, I am on the bottom of page 2 now, and I will say kudos to our staff. While we were out, they planned ahead, and there are only 2 doubled up items on today's agenda, which is quite amazing considering the length of time since last council met. So I appreciate that from our city staff. On page 27, you'll be amending the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way permit to Mid-States Petroleum. That was discussed in projects on the 6th of December. On page 28, you'll be authorizing addendum number 3 to the reimbursement agreement with Birmingham LD LLC. That will be discussed in projects today and is one of your doubled up items. On page 29, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a 2022 Tuscaloosa County Emergency Operations Plan.
That is requested from the EMA. This is a fairly typical document where all the governmental entities that participate with the EMA all have to sign to execute periodically to satisfy our federal partners. On page 30, you'll be amending the resolution saying a date for a hearing to set the cost of demolition of the building at 804 36th Avenue. On page 31, you'll be declaring an emergency and authorizing an emergency public works contract with John Plott Company, Inc. for the JVC Road Repair Sewer Repair Manhole 6978. This is a not to exceed $4,200,000 and will be doubled up and discussed in projects today. On page 32, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a special appropriation agency funding contract with Habitat for Humanity. That's a total of $6,000 and was discussed on the 20th in finance. On page 33, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from the District 7 improvement funds for the Ivy Foundation of Tuscaloosa. That is a total of $5,000 and was discussed on the 20th in finance. On pages 34 through 35, you'll be tentatively awarding a public works contract to Price Civil Services for Lift Station 68 capacity upgrades. That is a project total of $1,399,395.42 and was discussed on projects on the 20th. On page 36, you'll be authorizing a contract with KTA Tater Incorporated for study and consulting engineering services for condition assessments for 3 clear well tanks. This is a total not to exceed $23,100 and was discussed in projects on the 20th. On page 37, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Hydra Services. This is a total of $8,079.80, and again was discussed in project on the 20th. On page 38, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement with Comcast Business for the Western Riverwalk. This is a total contract amount of $39,005.20, and again was discussed in projects on the 20th. On page 39, you'll be authorizing a renewal of contract for professional services with Granicus. This is a total of $21,002.63, and again was discussed in projects on the 20th. On page 40, you'll be authorizing the CFO to draw a draft for the Juanita Drive Phase 2 improvements. This is a property acquisition in total of $35,100. On page 41, you'll be establishing the budget for the 2022 C warrant series. That's a total of $65,673,704 and was discussed in finance on the 20th. Skipping over on page 45, you'll be amending exhibits A and B to section 19-42 and 19-60A of the Code of Tuscaloosa. This came from admin on the 20th. On page 46, you'll be establishing one-time retention bonus for telecommunicators and dispatchers. This came to you in finance on the 20th as well. On page 47, you'll be deleting section 19-51B of the Code of Tuscaloosa. This was discussed in admin on the 20th. On page 48, you'll be authorizing amendment number 6 to fiscal year 2023 general fund budget. This is on finance today, or this came directly just from finance to council?
No, it's doubled up on finance.
Doubled up on finance. Sorry, there were 3. My notes were wrong. On page 49, you'll be setting February the 14th as the date to consider adoption of zoning amendment that Mr. Pons went over. And on page 50, we'll be setting the date to consider the zoning amendment for Westervelt Environmental. I would like to briefly remind you that next Tuesday at admin, we'll discuss our legislative agenda. We will have a little bit of time to finish getting it polished off, so we don't have to be perfect coming out of admin next week. I don't know if council, obviously you don't have to make this decision now, but if you'd like to have a work session or something else to discuss it, I'm happy to meet with any of you individually. I met with Councilman Wilson
Thank you so much.
last week, so happy to make myself available. And if there are items you would like the full committee to consider and want me to go ahead and have them prepared in advance for Tuesday, if you can get them to me sometime at the end of this week, that would be very helpful to me. And we do have 2 items to discuss in executive session.
I'll be brief on page 27, that right away for mid-states, where is that?
That is the
Mega C store.
Mega C store. Your big gas station, yes,
There
sir.
was just an error
It's going from Harrison Construction, it's going to this thing, so
Okay.
there was a clerical error.
And also, thank you, Mr. Bobbitt, for all your work on that Oneida Drive, and how far are we from having them all now? Maybe 10,
Less than that,
less than 10?
but probably by the end of the month, maybe early in February.
That's incredible. And look, I really want to thank Kimberly, Scott Holmes, Ron Smith, the mayor, for taking care of an issue Friday that dealt with private sewer that turned bad on a public street. And the police were involved with that too, and they didn't have to, they were there for support. And everything, everybody cooperated real well. Kim and I want to thank you for that, and Ron and Scott, because it had gone on for a long time, not in the reflection of our city staff, but thinking that the health department had stepped in to take care of it, and they obviously had not. That whole street was so grateful, and made for no phone calls this weekend, which was really nice. Chief, I want to thank you and your men too. New Year's Eve was horrible. It was just horrible. Not only what y'all had to deal with, but the gunshots. I mean, there were more guns being shot New Year's Eve than fireworks, by far.
Well, now that you
It was
mention that,
Awful.
as I understand it, Chief, Christmas Eve and Christmas, y'all had 160 calls on water issues?
Yes, sir, on, busted, busted water lines.
In 48 hours, 160 is a lot.
Yes, sir.
I mean, do the math. I know the police don't ever have to do anything on the holidays, so, but I was just amazed to hear those numbers.
Well, and our people, just to give our folks a shout out, it was really cold.
Yeah, I know. I saw some of them out.
The majority of our crew spent all of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day wet.
I had the opportunity to visit many of them afterwards, and they all had such a good attitude. Not that they like being out in the cold and being wet, but they were laughing about it, you know. So I appreciate them.
We are just so blessed and so fortunate for the people, not in this room, but outside that don't get to come here to tell them how much they're appreciated, because it's so much of what I've dealt with that I've called have been after hours and weekends, and they just do it, you know.
We're here for.
I got a question, Mr. Holmes, Mr.
Yes.
Woodson. The item on page 46, the one-time retention bonus for telecommunications and dispatchers, that came to finance committee unfortunately.
Came to, my notes, probably came to admin.
I was gonna say, it's not beyond the pale of credibility that I might not remember it, but I don't remember it.
It's admin. My notes are just incorrect. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Have motion second, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. As your city attorney and an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Alabama, I can certify that the topics to be discussed in this executive session would be to discuss with their attorney the legal ramifications of and legal opinions, legal options for pending litigation, controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated, or imminently likely to be litigated if the governmental body pursues a proposed course of action, as well as to discuss preliminary negotiations involving matters of trade or commerce in which the governmental body is in competition with the private individuals or entities or other governmental bodies in Alabama or other states or foreign nations.
Okay, we have, thank you, Mr. Holmes. Motion second, all in favor to go into executive session, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?